Hey there, guys, and welcome to episode 3 of the Rambling Producer Podcast, where we talk your ear off about the industry.
Let me put your brain without mid-brain. Cutting out frequencies, it's the music game.
Hey there, guys, thanks for tuning in to episode 3. This episode we're going to be talking about songwriting, specifically talking about your first song if you're just starting out as an artist. But you can definitely listen to this and get tips just in general about songwriting. This isn't really necessarily constraining to it being your first song, but if it is your first song, this would be the best time to learn these tips now so that you continue to put out good material. So in this case, we're talking about your first song, and maybe you've already got some ideas for your first song. But in case you don't, some things that could help you generate inspiration or ideas is one thing I suggest, is to keep your phone or some device with you, or maybe a small notebook if you prefer outside of that. That way, anytime an idea pops in your head, you can write it down, even if it's just like one little lyric line. It's super important. The other thing that I would suggest is if you're having a hard time figuring out, like, what am I supposed to write about? What should I write about? Try just writing down emotions while you're, maybe it's in that little notebook that I just mentioned, or in your phone, or something, or maybe you just sit down every day around the same time. Something called morning pages actually is really popular, where you write down your emotions about something, or how you're feeling that day, or what happened to you that day, or maybe something that happened to you in the past. You could write a couple paragraphs about that, not even thinking of a song right at first. That's a great way to start a song, because then you can kind of take that and the ideas and basically everything that's backing that story or those emotions, and then try to form a song out of that. Usually ends up being very relatable, because chances are if something's happened to you, there's probably somebody else out there that it's also happened to, maybe not in the exact same way, but a similar enough event that they could relate to that. And that's really one of the main points. You want your music to be relatable. You need the audience to connect in it in some way. Whether that resonates with, one group or another, whatever your demographic that you're trying to shoot for, you want something that's going to resonate with them, and they're going to be able to relate with it in some way and connect with it in some way. That's one of the most important things in writing, like, hit songs. Another thing to take into consideration is that not every song you're going to write is going to be a hit song. But the thing is, you still need to get it out of your system. So if you have an idea for a song, write the whole thing. Just write it. Just write whatever your idea is. Maybe it's not a whole song. Maybe it's half a song or just a couple lines. But you need to write it, get it out of your system. And then you can go back and look at it and just kind of read through it and go, hey, was this good or not? Or I don't know. Maybe it was great, maybe it wasn't, maybe part of it was great that you can use and rewrite the rest of it. There's really limitless possibilities in that. Another way to draw inspiration that I've seen some people use is going on like Amazon or something like that, and actually looking up like book titles that are popular and seeing if that sparks like an idea in them. I thought that was kind of a unique way. And then you also have people who will just go out and just start with chords instead, and I think that's kind of cool. If you play piano or guitar, if you find a cool chord progression and it's kind of like flowing with it, and maybe just write down lyrics, or kind of like how rappers will freestyle sometimes. You can also freestyle sing, or maybe you are a rapper, you could freestyle rap to that to come up with ideas. What I suggest for people who are doing like rap stuff though is, if you're freestyle rapping and you don't have a tendency of remembering every single thing you just said, you should probably have a cell phone more than likely, or something like a webcam or something. Record yourself. Just record a video of yourself freestyling to a beat or whatever else, and then maybe you do that a couple times. You can actually find good lyrics that way, especially if you're trying to practice doing that, and then you can write them down, and then when you go to record, you have structured out lyrics while you didn't originally just like write. Some people don't like doing that. Some people like to just go at it. Well, then you can write it down so you can remember them, and then come back to it later and actually get things actually really structured out and make sure everything's good and not, sometimes when you're freestyling, there's little parts that maybe you're like, oh man, that wasn't great. Well, good. Now maybe you can spot things of other freestyles you've done over the same beat and piece together something that's great and hit material. I've also seen people draw inspiration from things like Facebook, Pinterest, just pretty much anything, maybe quotes. You really find inspiration just about anywhere. But personally, my belief is that, if you surround yourself with great musicians, there's a good chance they'll inspire you to become a great musician. And that's probably my number one most helpful tip for you. Surround yourself with great musicians and you'll probably become a great musician just from learning from them. And hopefully by listening to this podcast, we are, one of those great musicians, since I am a musician as well, that you're surrounding yourself with. Maybe we aren't necessarily connecting right, like person to person over the phone, but you're here listening to me talk to you and try to help you. And also, my studio line's always open for you guys to call in and request feedback, or if you guys want to work together on something, maybe a mix, maybe just a master, maybe you want to do everything. If you live in the area, you can record with us too. We're in Adrian, Michigan right now. I don't know if there's going to be a move in the future at any point, but as of right now, we're in Adrian, Michigan. So that's, it kind of gives you an idea of how close by you are to us. But we always do remote work too, like we even have a consultation service where I can set you up a home studio basically so that you're able to work with us. And, you'd have to pay for all the equipment and things, but we get a kind of a deal on that type of stuff. So we can always help out with something like that too. Like I know I have a gentleman who wants to work with me down in Louisiana, and we've been setting that type of stuff up with him as well. But yeah, with songwriting, basically you just start with an idea, and the next thing you're going to want to do is develop that idea. So you're going to want to create engaging lyrics. One of the classic ways to make engaging lyrics that I think everybody can make use of is basically just within the first 30 seconds of the lyrics, say the word you, or something of that form, rather than saying I, maybe take it out of context and be like, hey, you did this, you did that, you did this, but you're really just talking to yourself, and that actually makes it to where you're connecting directly with the audience. You're saying, hey, you're talking to them. Make the song in some way talk to them. And if that's not the method you want to go by, that's fine, but that's the simplest method to make engaging lyrics. The other way is to actually create the track and the lyrics kind of combined in a way that is engaging. It's a little more difficult to do that, especially if you're not creating your own tracks, and if you are creating your own tracks, if you're not experienced at doing that. But if you manage to correlate with like your producer that creates beats, or if you manage to kind of figure out how to do that, basically just creating the pockets and hitting the more meaningful lyrics in those pockets just right and things, that can actually create engagement as well as the movements and swells in the actual song. So, the ups and downs of your vocals, the dynamics, that can create some engagement as well. You also could create an engaging story, so maybe you don't want to say you to the audience or anything like that, but if you create an engaging story, kind of like if you read, for example, you probably have read a story at some point that was engaging, and while it wasn't getting you into it, you being a part of the story, it may have been just an engaging story. And if you take elements from that, like, maybe you're just really enthralled with this character, or maybe you're just really enthralled, what's going to happen next in this? Oh man, did this turn out? Take those elements and try to apply them to music. And then the final element that's going to be really important for you to learn about, and this is something you're going to have to go out and learn on your own a little bit, and eventually it should become kind of second nature to you. Maybe it already is, and you just don't realize it, because some people do have that little niche down in their brain, even though they don't realize it yet. But it's rhyming, and I don't just mean like in rap music where you think, oh, you gotta rhyme these to make it flow perfectly. Well, it does that in singing too, but it's not always what's called perfect rhymes or full rhymes. Sometimes they're half rhymes or imperfect rhymes. They could be slang rhymes. They could be all sorts of different ways of rhyming. And basically, by combining those different elements, you don't have to have a song that sounds like it rhymes, but in some way, some elements rhyme. Maybe just a certain vowel, maybe just a certain piece of this word just makes it flow just right. It's just something allowing that song to be catchy and flow properly. Because that catchiness is what's going to get your song in people's heads and make them go, wow, I like this song. And that's from the lyrical aspect. You also, again, have that same thing in like the beat aspect too. You're going to want to go through and try to make that as engaging as possible, and that's going to make it catchy. That engagement, creating those pockets, you want to use like a thing called 2+2 theory, which I'll go in more later on and about, I'll go more about what that is here in a little bit in this same episode. But basically, you just want to create that engagement and that catchiness. Now, catchy doesn't mean you gotta go like that stereotype commercial pop song that's, finger snapping and a bunch of just straight perfect rhymes, cheesiness. You don't gotta do that. As a matter of fact, I don't really like stuff that's like that. It feels less original. But if you're really original in your lyrics, and then you kind of learn what half rhymes and things are, you might already know that if you've kind of been through high school and done like poetry stuff a lot. Some high schools weren't as heavy on the poetry stuff, but it just depends. But yeah, half rhymes and slant rhymes and things of that form really help as well. So, a good example of like a perfect rhyme would be like if you said, stitch and let's see here, I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. Stitch and hitch. That would be a very perfect rhyme. In the definition of a perfect rhyme is, the ending of those are basically exactly the same, and or like some part of the word is exactly the same in the pronunciation, and that is what's causing that to be a perfect rhyme. A half rhyme is something that I tend to use a lot, and it doesn't always have to be like one line after another. It could be like one line, you have kind of like 4 lines later, and then you finally say it. As long as it flows properly, you'll be able to kind of hear and tell that it flows properly. But like the word six and then the word stitch, they're not perfect. Six doesn't have that T sound. It doesn't have a lot of the vowels and a lot of pronunciation that stitch has in it. But that part of it, it just matches just right. So, like, if I told a story when I was 6, back when I had to get a stitch, like, it sounds like it rhymes. No, I'm not a rapper, so I wasn't trying to make that flow properly. Well, I have done rap before, but just, like, I got, like, one song right now that has rap in it, and it's not even out. So, but I wasn't trying to make that flow properly. But you can hear where they fit right together. But also, if you listen to that, it's not perfect. It's not a perfect harmonious like rhyme. You also have classic things like if you look back at old nursery rhymes, that 3 Little Piggies thing I saw. I was actually kind of scouring around trying to find good examples for this, and I guess the nursery rhyme where the 3 Little Piggies went home, etc. They actually have a slant rhyme. And they fit together even less than like Six and Stitch. So you've got things like home and the word none. Home and none. So they don't sound like they rhyme, but there's actually a slant rhyme there where you can actually find something that kind of just goes well together for some reason. It's that O part. None, home. It's the in there, and they're very close. So if you say like, I just want to go home. I didn't want none. Yeah, that's really improper English, but it would actually rhyme in a way, like a slant rhyme, and then you could make up a second thing, or maybe with a full rhyme with home, and then another slant rhyme with it that also rhymes with none. And then you have all these rhyming things that people are like, oh man, it doesn't fit together perfectly, but for some reason it just rings in my head just right. So my suggestion would be, write lyrics. Don't worry about all these little technical things right off the bat. Just write your lyrics and then go back and say, well, is there a way I can say this and include like a rhyme, or is there a way I can say this differently? And the other thing you want to stay away from is saying very vague statements. You've got little pieces of this where, like I felt bad would be a terrible lyric line. Why did you feel bad? Go in depth. And that also allows you to fill verses and fill choruses and things way more. So you want to make like the verses like, oh man, I'm hungry for more information, you're leading me on and you're giving me all this description about how you feel and how and things, but what happened, man? And then all of a sudden in the chorus you're gonna be like, this is what happened, this is what caused this. And then the next verse is like, oh man, and then that tore me apart, but this is how I felt from that tearing apart, and the things just kept getting worse and worse. And then all of a sudden the next chorus hits and it's like, oh man, this is what happened. And then the bridge hits and something's changed. Oh no, something's changed in this story. Maybe it's gone to the positive instead, or maybe it's even worse, or maybe you finally disconnected from the situation somehow, and then the last chorus could actually be a change. You could either do the same, like, oh man, you hurt me in this way, etc., whatever, and just kind of give the meat of it again, or you could actually change the last chorus and actually make a sense of like, things got better and things and this, and now you're gone. Or, maybe you hurt me before, but now in this last course I'm saying, but it's okay because now you're gone, and etc. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe this is a good song and you switch it to unhappy at the last course, or maybe this is a good song and it gets even better at the end, or it could be anything. It could be literally anything, but your bridge is the change. Your final chorus should include your hook. Either your bridge or your final chorus should include a hook, something different. For example, I have a song called Elevate, and it's not out yet, so I kind of give you guys insider information. So this is exclusive for you guys listening to this podcast. But during my choruses, it's, the sun is shining where you are, but I hope the sun is shining where you are, because I don't want you living in the dark, so elevate yourself. And that's like the basis of the chorus. But in the final chorus, there's a background vocal, and it's, the sun is shining. The sun is shining. So it's like, this whole time I'm like, I don't know why you feel so low, because you're so out of control. Just elevate yourself. Like, come on, get back up. Come on, do this. And then, but fast forward in the final chorus, now the sun's shining, things are better. The sun's shining, and that's like the hook. And then it's actually got like a cool vocal, like a cool dynamic to it too. So I'm not going to give you too much information. But yeah, you want them to be hungry for that information right before you're able to give that information to them. So once you've got that all structured, and then you can kind of go back in your song and be like, all right, well, I wrote this story with these lyrics and they kind of fit well, but how can I make them fit better? How can I expand on these details, say things a different way, And at first, maybe you won't be great at it, but it's just the idea you need to keep in your head. Like, don't say things in a vague, undescriptive way, If you, again, in high school, you learned about diction, and maybe you didn't go to high school, maybe you dropped out, but look up diction, go through the whole thing of just learning this, just as what diction is. It's power behind words. So rather than saying like the word angry, that's alright, you're angry, but then you could say like, oh man, I was, devastated, rather than upset, or angry versus saying like, I was exploding, and the thing is, saying you were exploding could actually have multiple meanings, which is kind of cool. So like, screaming my emotions, like kind of a thing in any way. It could be really any emotion. But yeah, just finding unique ways to say things. That's going to be another way to kind of make your music more you and more unique. But say it in a way that you would say it. Say it in a way that you like. At the end of the day, it matters that you like it. It resonates with your audience and yourself. So earlier I talked about a 2+2 theory. And that theory is more tying into your instrumentals. So the idea of 2+2 theory is literally 2+2. So if it's basically like, hey, I could give you the answer of 4. 2+2 equals 4. I could be like, here's 4 things. Or I could tell you, here's 2 things. Here's 2 things. I want you to figure out that this is 4 in total. So I know that sounds weird and confusing the way I just said it, but I'm going to explain it right now. So the idea in music is, obviously music isn't, here's a bunch of numbers and there's numbers in music, but as far as your audience is concerned, they don't care about that. It's kind of like, here's a beat that I have, and here's an instrument that I have that I'm playing over the beat, and there's this melody or this harmony I want you to hear between these, but I'm not going to give you 100% of everything. So I'm going to give you these with little pockets and things in here, and I want your brain to fill that up. And it's really hard to explain that without actually showing you guys examples, but I don't have licenses to a bunch of different songs to play in here. So what I suggest for you to do is go and just listen to any popular song. I want you to go and find like an unpopular song, like some random guy who has no luck and success. Find him on like SoundCloud or something, and listen to his music, just his background tracks, and be like, all right, I'm listening to this, and hopefully you find one that does this poorly. No offense, I don't want them to do it poorly because I hope they have a success in their music, but hopefully you can find one that does this poorly. And basically, like, people who are hitting full chords and full, just this full production, filling it up. A great example would actually be go and listen to some older music. Listen to some older music from like the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Back then, it was really cool to have like the full band behind you and have the full production. 2 + 2 theory really wasn't something that resonated with their audiences as much back then. But nowadays, now listen to like new music, and you can hear where like they've got the drums and they've got the piano and the guitar, but the thing is, for some reason there's something else there, but is it actually there? That's what you should be questioning. Listen to it. Is it actually there? Is these harmonies, these things I'm hearing, are they actually there? Or maybe they're not. Maybe your brain's making it up, and I want you to listen closely to those different songs and be like, what is my brain making up, and why is it making that up? That if you can raise that question, then you're hearing it. If you can raise that question, then you know you're hearing it. And that's the something else that today's music really has. And it's hard to explain, like I said, over, just talking. But that's something you're going to want to try to learn to grasp. And you'll learn it over time. If you listen to like modern pop music, which is what I actually specialize in, you'll hear like they'll have like one main instrument that sounds really cool, and then they'll have a drum beat, and then they might have like one under instrument, and you're like, why does this sound so cool? He has like 3 instruments in here. What's going on? Like every once in a while he has bass added, but other than that, he just leaving all these empty space open and maybe filling it with a little bit of reverb from the other things, but for some reason my brain's like moving with it, like my body wants to move with it, or my mind just keeps following this. Why? And that's the 2 + 2 theory, because there's this overall harmony that we want you to hear and understand, but we don't want to give you 100% of it. We want to engage you in this instrumental to then allow you to fill in the blanks, pretty much, that, we've literally given you. This is our 2, this is our 2, we're adding them together, but we want you to figure out the solution. What is supposed to go between here and here? What's supposed to be here? What happens when you combine these? What harmonies should be here? And your brain goes, oh man, this really should have this in here, and then your brain will actually add that automatically when you're as a listener. And it's really weird to think about, but when you see it or hear it applied, that's something that I think a lot of people don't take a lot of advantage of because it's hard to understand. There's also people who accidentally take advantage of it, which is really cool because your brain wants to do that. Your brain wants to create something like that. You just need to let it. But yeah, when you're going into your music stuff, you're not going to get any of this stuff perfect. I guarantee you are never going to get any of this perfect off the bat. So when you first start writing, just do it. Just write. And that's the most important thing. Just write. If you feel like you have writer's block, find a prompt or find something that inspires you out there on the internet. It doesn't have to be music related even. Just something that inspires you. Maybe something that makes you think of a story and then you go, oh man, I could write a song about that. Do that. Maybe it is a song. Maybe you go out there and listen to a song and be like, oh man, I had something kind of like that happen to me, and maybe I'll write a song about that. The most important thing here is to make something that's uniquely you, and also just to start doing it. One of the most famous things that people have said, famous artists have said in the past, namely Ed Sheeran. That's actually one of my favorite ones. Ed Sheeran himself, who has gotten probably more, honestly, I know he's super popular when it comes to performing and stuff, but he's also like way even more popular when it comes to just songwriting. He's written for so many people, and it seems like almost every time he writes somebody a song, it's a hit song. And then you look it up and it's like, oh, it's written by Ed Sheeran. Oh, that's probably why it's a hit song, you know? There's even songs, like I know AJR has a song that he says, if Ed Sheeran writes my songs, I'll finally top the charts. And I mean, he's not wrong. You know, Ed has gotten this down. And even Ed's suggestion is just write. At first, it's like turning on like a faucet is what he says. He says it's like turning on a faucet that hasn't been on for so long. And when you turn it on, maybe sediment and things have gotten into your pipelines and it just starts flowing this crappy water, and it's brown and it's gross, and then it just keeps flowing this, and you just let it run down the drain. You're like, oh man, that's gross. But you just got to let it flow out. Eventually, you flow enough of it out, you get little spurts of clear water. And those are your good songs. You know, you might have a bunch of bad songs. Maybe you'll write 100 songs and it'll be bad songs, and then all of a sudden you have one really good one. You're like, oh man, that was sweet. But then you have a bunch of bad ones again. And then you'll just got little good ones mixed in here. And then eventually all of that bad water is going to flow out of you, and it's all going to be gone. It's going to be more good than there is bad. I mean, you're still going to get a bad song every once in a while, you know, but eventually 9 times out of 10, you're going to write a good song. Then maybe it'll be 99 times out of 100. You know, you're just slowly building that up and letting the crap songs kind of flow out and the good songs flow in. And you need to get them out of your system. You need to write those bad songs. You also need to be able to acknowledge that they're bad songs. You know, if you read it and it doesn't sound like a song you'd listen to, then you probably shouldn't use that for a recording. If you're trying to make it in the music industry, you know, you want to start off on a good foot and then end on an even better foot. So if you start off and all the songs you're writing are crap, keep writing. Keep writing for a little while. Give yourself a couple weeks to write a bunch of songs, as many as you can, and then go through and pick the best ones. That would be my challenge to you guys starting musicians. Take at least like 2 weeks. I know 2 weeks really isn't that long. If you guys have the time to take more than that, the patience to take more than that, then take more than that. But go through, write a bunch of songs. I'm not going to give you a set number because, you know, it's going to depend on how much inspiration you have and stuff, but just write a bunch of songs. Fill your phone notes or your notebook or something up with a bunch of songs. And just go through and pick the best ones. Maybe you don't have chords or anything for them yet, but you have an idea in your head of what it's going to sound like that you can then sing or rap or something. And that's going to be your basis for that song. Or maybe you just started with instrumentals. Well, that's kind of cool because you can write songs to the instrumentals. Well, I would suggest find a chord progression that resonates with you then, and then write to that chord progression, and write to the chord progression again, and then write to that chord progression again, and then keep going until you have a bunch of songs to that same chord progression, and go, okay, what are the best ones? Okay, well, this one chord progression, I have to have one song. Well, these are the best ones. Now look into those lyrics. Look into those. Oh, what are the best parts? Does this song and this song fit together somehow? Maybe they're like the same story, but written in a different way. Can I find elements in this one and elements in this one and combine them? Or maybe I can just use the way I wrote this one to rewrite this other one that I'm more psyched about. That would be my suggestion. Once you have all of that stuff together, just get it together, write the whole song, flesh it all out, even if it's just on one instrument, with just your vocal, and put it out there. If you can get into a recording studio, a professional recording studio, and do it, or maybe you have a home studio and you've learned how to do all this stuff already and you're just now getting into the artistry side of things, then do it. If you can't do that, still do it. Because you know what? The production value will come later. right now you need to be building a fan base as an artist. So if all you have is a cell phone, which by the way, most cell phones nowadays, unless you have like a $10 cell phone that was made like 100 years ago, no, not 100 years ago, but an old phone, chances are your webcam is halfway decent, and you can just video yourself playing the piano or playing the guitar and singing and just put it out there. Either put it out there on Facebook, or if you can, put it out there on Facebook playing it live, and then also re-record it or pull the audio from it if you know how to do that, and put just a live performance on like SoundCloud or something, and start that, or whatever other social media you decide. We talked about the plan that you have last episode. If you haven't listened to that, definitely go back and listen to that. But just whatever social media you decide to go under, find a way to release it on there and be like, hey, this is a song I wrote. How do you guys like it? Hashtag new music, hashtag upcoming artist, hashtag, make sure you use those hashtags for marketing purposes, which we'll actually talk about marketing in future episodes. But, those are really important. Just for now, just take note of that. Hashtags, things like that, adding other people and things. Those are all really important things, and to connect with people and be able to be searchable. But yeah, just get out there and do it. That's the main thing with songwriting. Take the tips I've given you. Those are really like the basis of everything. Just take those and just try to apply those, especially the rhyming and, just trying to create engagement, creating a story, expanding on details, use more powerful words and more powerful ways to say things. Don't be too vague. And that's really going to be the best way for you to go about it. Write a song, be as vague or whatever you want, as you want when you first write it. Go back and read it and be like, oh man, this one section, all I say is like, oh man, this thing made me feel bad. Well, you know what? That was terrible vocals, by the way. Kind of sound like an old Western singer. Anyways, be like, oh, why did it make me feel bad? Or like, how did it really make me feel? Think about like Cage the Elephant says, walking down the street, out of the corner of my eye, I saw someone, approaching me. And the thing is, he's telling a story that whole time. It's like folk music kind of influence. And that's engaging. And then you also have things that are like, you don't want to be like, I'm sad, you can be like, I was devastated by this, and this, or I was devastated, broken down, never to rise again. But now I'm trying to crawl my way back to the beginning. Or actually, rather, in that sentence there, actually, instead of using beginning, you might want to incorporate a way to say to begin. Because beginning, while it's kind of a half rhyme somewhere in there, it's like the cadence isn't just it sounds weird. Crawl my way back so that again I can I don't know how you structure that. I'd have to actually sit down and write it down. But yeah, something like that, or you could be like crawling back to find my way to begin. There we go. That would actually kind of work. Crawl my way back, trying to find my way to begin. And I know that sounds weird, and irony. Well, you began before, and then you fell down, but irony sometimes is a good way to engage the audience too. They'd be like, what? It's kind of interesting. But you can use of irony. You can use a lot of different elements. Just make sure you find something that resonates with you. And when you're writing, use those elements. Use those things that I talked about before, from the half rhymes and full rhymes and slant rhymes. Use those from the lyrical aspect, and then you can also, storytelling, something that is engaging. If you're reading it and if you can read it and get engaged in it and be like, oh man, what's going to happen next in this story? Or, oh man, I wonder where this song's going to go now, or something. If you feel engaged in it, chances are someone else is going to feel engaged in it. And that's really where it's at. That's the rawness of it, There's no perfect, exact way to go about this. Everybody has their own methods of songwriting. Some people write better in the morning. Some people write better at night. Some people don't care what time it is of the day, and ideas just pop in their head, and that's okay too. It doesn't matter when or how or where. The important thing is that you write in a way that is resonating with you, and it fits your plan, your definition of success, your audience, and it's something that you connect with, because chances are if you connect with the song, someone else will connect with your song, and that's what is important. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Next episode, we're going to be talking about, basically the next steps. I'm going to be following up on the same momentum of all of our episodes where I've kind of been walking through from the beginning of your career, flowing through your career. So we talked about a plan. Well, first episode, you guys got to get to know me and the podcast a little bit. I originally said that it wasn't as long as these other episodes, but they're actually pretty comparable. I think these might be a little bit longer, but not by much. You guys got to know me, and then we talked about a plan, which is like the first thing you should do. Plan for the next 12 months, and that's what you should do every year. Plan your year of like, what are my goals? And there's way more detail in that last episode, a whole half an hour or so episode on it, and the questions you should be answering. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. And then now we're talking about writing your songs, writing your first songs, really because the main thing is getting product out there. Even if it's, like I said, phone videos of you playing and singing, that's better than having nothing out there. Because if you have nothing out there, well, then you don't exist. According to the industry, you don't exist. If you don't have anything out there, you don't have a name that's established, you don't have a single person who has listened to your music, you don't have anything, then you don't exist, according to the industry. So you need to write songs that are going to resonate with you. Next week, we're going to be kind of doing a combination topic. I'm definitely going to talk about like picking your name and things. That really should have been part of the plan. You should have already picked that. I started off thinking, all right, well, they probably already have the name of their artist name. It's probably either their name or a band name that they've already figured out. But I realized not everybody's like that, so really that should have been part of that plan. But we're going to talk about that a little bit at the beginning of next episode, and then we're going to flow into a little more detail, specifically about releasing your first song, and that's kind of the topic we're following right now, probably for the next episode or two, because that's the beginning of your career. You need to start off somewhere, and that's going to be where you start, and I definitely suggest starting with singles, individual songs, especially when you're finding your sound still. It's really something, that's where we're going to start. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys are looking forward to the next episode. And if you guys want to continue seeing updates from us regularly, make sure to follow our Facebook page. That's going to be Signal Studios Music. So it's be at Signal Studios Music. That's on Facebook. And then definitely follow us there. You can also follow us here on Anchor. That's where you're going to hear pretty much all of the updates right there. You can also follow my specific music page if you'd like. I have a YouTube channel. That's Emmy Official. It's literally the letters M period E period underscore official. It's not actually underscore, but for some reason YouTube does a weird underscore thing for spaces. When you pull up the actual thing, it should have me. You guys should know a picture of me. If you don't have a picture of me, you can go to my studio page, and signalarstudio.wordpress.com currently, at least until we get an actual .com website, and you can find a picture of me. Or you should see like the ME with like a smoke background or a rain background. But if you follow those pages, you'll be able to kind of see all the updates, both from myself musically and also studio updates, who we're working with, what we're doing, if we move locations, and also we post these up. We do have a YouTube channel where you can find these as well, but it's one episode behind here. We don't have a custom YouTube link yet, so I cannot really tell you how to find that. You'll just kind of have to search through the channels for Signal Studios and look for our SS logo with the blue waveform, or our full logo of Signal Studios, depending on what platform you're on. Because I think YouTube likes to use our banner photo sometimes for certain platforms for some reason. But yeah, definitely follow our different pages. That's going to be the best way you're going to get all of the updates. But if you're just looking for just the podcast, you can follow us here. That's always a great way to keep up to date. It should send you updates, and it'll tell you like, oh, hey, they're releasing a new episode, or episode just came out, etc. But we do release every other Sunday. And then, like I said, YouTube is one episode behind us each time, because it gives a reason to kind of push to come to here, because this is the main platform, and the other ones is kind of, it takes a while to get like a video together with a waveform and then take it over to YouTube. So definitely follow all those things if you want to keep updates. Get in contact with us. If you guys have questions, get in contact with the studio. Phone number 734-224-4123. Just get in contact with the studio. Again, 734-224-4123. You can text us. You can call us. If you call us and we miss the call, we'll probably call you back. I don't get any spam calls usually on my phone number. Hopefully we don't get those anytime soon on the business phone number. We do use Google Voice, so we have a separate text message system, a separate voicemail system, but it goes to my personal cell phone, so I always have it on me. So yeah, for sure, you can text us questions, you can call us, you can ask us whatever you need to ask, and we'll do the best of our ability to answer them. And if you need songwriting lessons, we do songwriting lessons. We can do those remotely. We can do those in-house if you're nearby. All sorts of stuff. So if maybe this episode wasn't a clear explanation of how to do things, or you just think you need that extra push, that extra help, well, we're here to help you with that. And we don't charge a monthly fee. It's a per lesson. So if you want to take one lesson and then never take another one again, you can. But yeah, just, let us know what you need help with if that's the case. But I hope you guys took some important information from this episode and are able to apply that to your current craft in the way that you kind of work currently, or maybe you haven't written any songs at all currently, and you're able to take these tips and apply them right off the bat. I hope you guys have so much success in writing, and I'm looking forward to talking with you guys again next episode. Hey there guys, we're taking a short break here, just to tell you a little bit about our sponsor for this episode. Our sponsor is actually Anchor, the people who host our podcast. We really love their service. The best part about their service is that it's free. They give you the creation tools and everything to edit your podcast right from your phone or right on the computer from their website, so you don't need anything else outside of that. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can even make money from it. You can get sponsorships to do that. It's just everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And let's say you want to edit some things. That's cool too. You can do that in your own editing software and just upload your file just as its own file. You can add your own background music. You can do everything. Make sure to try out Anchor by downloading the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Peace. Thank you guys.
Help me get your brain without mid-brain. Cutting out frequencies. It's the